Vatican, with its grandeur and mystery, has always stirred the curiosity of millions around the world. Beneath its golden domes and silent corridors lie stories not found in official books, secrets that have spanned centuries and shaped the destiny of entire nations. Among these mysteries, one stands out: the existence of a figure known as the Grey Pope, an invisible strategist who supposedly operates behind the scenes of the Church, pulling the strings of power in absolute silence. Ancient accounts and manuscripts suggest that, at times, this strategist crossed paths with another Vatican enigma, the so-called Black Pope, a title given to the leader of the Jesuits, whose global influence has been capable of altering the course of conflicts and state decisions. But who really is the Grey Pope? Is he merely a convenient myth to explain the unexplainable, or a real and powerful force whose actions have shaped history so profoundly that even today his name is whispered in the Vatican's halls? The year was 1545, and the Catholic Church was facing one of its most challenging moments. The Protestant Reformation had shattered the unity of Christianity in Europe, while new intellectual movements began to question papal authority. In response, the Church convened the Council of Trent, an assembly intended to reaffirm its doctrines and stem the advance of Protestantism. However, not all crucial decisions occurred in plain sight. Behind the scenes of the Council, away from prying eyes, operated a figure known only as the Voice of the Shadow. This man, whose true identity remains unknown, is said to have played a central role in the most strategic decisions of the Counter-Reformation. Manuscripts found in the Vatican's secret archives mention this enigmatic figure as the mastermind behind the creation of the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, the list of prohibited books aimed at silencing ideas that threatened the Church's hegemony. More than a mere advisor or common strategist, the Voice of the Shadow possessed a unique ability to manipulate alliances and anticipate the moves of his adversaries. His decisions not only shaped the future of the Church, but also directly influenced European geopolitics. How could someone without a known face wield so much power? This is the essence of what we call the Grey Pope, a master of the shadows, whose presence was felt in every critical decision. During the Council, while cardinals and theologians openly debated doctrinal matters, the Grey Pope was said to be operating behind the scenes. Ciphered letters from the time indicate that he was the true architect of the political alliances that secured the support of Catholic monarchs like Charles V at a moment when the Church's power seemed on the brink of collapse. His influence extended beyond politics. He is also believed to have coordinated the formation of an invisible tribunal, tasked with secretly monitoring and judging those who threatened the unity of the faith. This tribunal, though never officially acknowledged, is mentioned in correspondence between cardinals of the era, who referred to it as the shield of the doctrines. But what was the ultimate purpose of the Grey Pope? Was he a protector of the faith or merely a political manipulator? A deeper analysis reveals that he was, in fact, both. For him, the survival of the Church was more important than any moral or doctrinal principle. He wielded fear, persuasion, and diplomacy as weapons, always with a singular objective: to preserve the absolute power of the Church. One of the most significant moments of his activity occurred in 1563, during the conclusion of the Council of Trent. While the world believed the Council had reached a peaceful and unified resolution, documents suggest that the Grey Pope had secretly influenced the final drafting of the conciliar decrees. He is said to have inserted clauses ensuring the Church's ability to reinterpret Scripture according to its political and social needs. This ability to foresee future challenges and adapt the Church's strategies was what made the Grey Pope so powerful. He understood that ensuring the survival of the faith required not only combating heresies, but also shaping the narrative of history. However, his power was not absolute. Rumors arose that others within the Vatican, including leaders of the Society of Jesus, were beginning to question his influence. This marked the onset of a silent tension between him and those who would eventually be associated with the title of Black Pope. By the end of the Council, the Grey Pope had fulfilled his mission. The Church not only survived the crisis, but emerged stronger and more centralized. What remained, however, was a legacy of mystery and intrigue that continues to fascinate scholars and researchers to this day. The figure of the Grey Pope, solidified during this period, not only safeguarded the Church, but also left an indelible mark on human history. He was the ultimate strategist, the invisible guardian who operated in the shadows and, though never seen, determined the destinies of millions. At the heart of the Vatican lies a place shrouded in mystery, inaccessible to most: the Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, or the Vatican Secret Archives. This site is not merely a collection of documents. It is a fortress of secrets spanning centuries. Within its vaults are papal correspondences, records of heresies, political treaties, and, according to speculation, manuscripts that could rewrite the history of humanity. Among the most persistent rumors about the archives are mentions of the Grey Pope's role as one of the invisible guardians of these secrets. Manuscripts unearthed by researchers in the 20th century, before being swiftly confiscated by the Vatican, suggest that he had full access and control over these documents, ensuring that only information strengthening the Church came to light. It was within this environment of control and mystery that the Grey Pope's power solidified. During the 16th and 17th centuries, he is believed to have used information from the archives to manipulate diplomatic negotiations and dismantle conspiracies against the Church. In a letter from 1774, attributed to a cardinal close to Pope Clement XIV, there are direct mentions of an invisible strategist who disrupted infiltration plans by the Illuminati. The Grey Pope's influence was not merely administrative, it was profoundly strategic. He understood that information was the greatest power one could wield. With access to the secrets of kings and records of major heresies, he became an unassailable force. What makes this so fascinating is how he managed to remain completely in the shadows, even during global crises and intense internal disputes. Certain documents within the secret archives have always been the subject of speculation. One of them is the so-called letter of Clement VIII, which supposedly details the existence of a secret Vatican council composed of high-ranking clergy and strategists. According to theories, this letter describes the Grey Pope as the coordinator of this council, tasked with eliminating threats to the Catholic Church, even through morally questionable methods. Another frequently cited document is the Codex Vigilius, a medieval manuscript said to have been removed from circulation during the 18th century. It reportedly contains accounts of the behind-the-scenes events of the Great Western Schism, including the interference of a mysterious figure many identify as a precursor to the Grey Pope. This document is referenced in letters from cardinals of the time, but its existence has never been confirmed, further fueling intrigue. The Vatican secret archives, with their layers of secrets and intrigue, are the silent testimony to this strategist's actions. Every hidden document, every sealed record, carries the weight of decisions made in the shadows. But what exactly do these documents conceal? One intriguing theory is that many of the suppressed texts in the archives reveal alternative narratives about key figures in Christianity. For instance, there are rumors that the Grey Pope personally oversaw the concealment of apocryphal Gospels, such as the Gospel of Judas and the Gnostic texts discovered in Nag Hammadi. These documents present a completely different perspective on Jesus' relationship with his disciples and on the foundations of Christian faith. This absolute control over the archives allowed the Grey Pope not only to shape the Church's official narrative, but also to influence the world's historical perception of Christianity. He was the true editor of faith, deciding what should be remembered and what should be forgotten. But why did he make these decisions? To protect the faith, or to preserve power? During times of crisis, such as the Crusades or the Inquisition, the Grey Pope is said to have used the archives as a tool to anticipate enemy movements and adjust strategies. He understood that hidden knowledge was a powerful weapon, capable of safeguarding the Church from both internal and external threats. It is possible that many successes attributed to visible popes were, in reality, direct results of this invisible strategist's actions. Another intriguing piece of this puzzle is the Grey Pope's relationship with the Jesuits. Ciphered letters discovered in the 18th century indicate that the Black Pope, the leader of the order, was frequently consulted by the Grey Pope on matters requiring intelligence and espionage. This collaboration, though effective, generated tensions that would later erupt into internal rivalries. One of the greatest pieces of evidence of the Grey Pope's influence is his involvement during the Protestant Reformation. While the White Pope represented the Church in debates and councils, the Grey Pope manipulated alliances and controlled information behind the scenes, ensuring that the Church maintained its position. His strategy went beyond theology. It encompassed politics, economics, and even espionage. A striking example occurred in 1633, during the trial of Galileo Galilei. Although Pope Urban VIII was the public face of the condemnation, documents suggest that the Grey Pope played a critical role behind the scenes, deciding that Galileo should be silenced to prevent the fragmentation of ecclesiastical authority. This episode illustrates how the Grey Pope was not just a defender of faith, but also a protector of power. He understood that controlling the narrative was as important as maintaining doctrine. Today, much of what resides in the archives remains inaccessible, protected by strict protocols and layers of bureaucracy. Yet the question persists: How many events that shaped the Church's history were, in truth, decided by a man who never appeared in public view? During World War II, the Vatican officially declared its neutrality, but behind this public stance lay a clandestine network of operations that influenced the course of historical events. At the center of this network, according to later accounts and documents, was the Grey Pope, acting as a strategist who delicately balanced the Axis and Allied forces to ensure the Church's survival. While Pope Pius XII faced widespread criticism for his silence regarding Nazi atrocities, the Grey Pope is said to have orchestrated a series of secret operations to protect lives and preserve the Church's assets. Monasteries and churches across Europe were transformed into havens for persecuted Jews, and secret passages within the Vatican were used to hide entire families. Testimonies from Allied soldiers suggest that agents linked to the Vatican transported refugees to safe locations, often at great risk of discovery by Nazi troops. But the Grey Pope's actions extended far beyond humanitarian aid. He understood that protecting the Church also meant safeguarding its treasures and relics. During the bombings of Rome, historical manuscripts, artworks, and religious artifacts were moved to secret hiding places. Some of these items have never been publicly seen again, fueling theories about their current whereabouts and the true scope of the operations carried out at the time. There are also accounts suggesting that the Grey Pope established direct lines of communication with leaders such as Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt. This diplomatic network aimed to maintain a balance between the warring forces, ensuring the Vatican was spared from direct attacks. In one of the most controversial operations, unverified documents suggest that the Grey Pope negotiated with Nazi officials to protect certain monasteries in exchange for strategic information about the Allies. An intriguing example is the theory surrounding Operation Eich, the famous rescue of Benito Mussolini by Nazi troops in 1943. According to speculation, the Grey Pope was forewarned of the operation and used this knowledge to bargain for the protection of churches in occupied Italian territory. Although no concrete evidence exists, this story is often cited as an example of the pragmatism that guided his actions. Another fascinating case involves the transfer of Vatican wealth to Switzerland during the war. Unverified reports mention trains loaded with gold, manuscripts, and artworks leaving Rome under Vatican protection. It is believed that the Grey Pope orchestrated this operation to ensure the Church's treasures remained safe, even in the face of a potential Nazi invasion. Beyond his negotiation skills, the Grey Pope utilized the Society of Jesus, led by the Black Pope, to expand his intelligence operations. The Jesuits were renowned for their ability to infiltrate organizations and provide critical information. During the war, they acted as intermediaries in negotiations with governments and resistance troops, always under the indirect supervision of the Grey Pope. In 1944, during the Allied liberation of Rome, secret reports indicate that a Vatican emissary, possibly linked to the Grey Pope, delivered valuable information about German positions in the city. This intervention is said to have ensured that St. Peter's Basilica and other sacred sites were spared from bombing, preserving the Church's spiritual and cultural heritage. The Grey Pope's involvement in World War II was not merely about institutional survival, it was deeply spiritual. For him, the war represented a direct threat to the stability of faith, and protecting the Church was tantamount to protecting the very essence of Christianity. This vision shaped his decisions, even the most morally ambiguous ones. After the conflict, the Grey Pope played a crucial role in the Vatican's financial reconstruction. With Europe devastated, the Church faced unprecedented economic challenges. He is said to have been the architect of a network of financial alliances that ensured the Vatican's economic recovery, using Swiss banks and private investors to stabilize its resources. This ability to think long-term, to anticipate crises and find solutions amid chaos, is what makes the Grey Pope such a fascinating figure. He was not just a war strategist. He was a visionary who understood the importance of preserving the Church's power in a constantly changing world. However, his actions during the war also raised questions that persist to this day. To what extent was he willing to compromise moral values to achieve his goals? And, more importantly, how many other global decisions were influenced by this invisible strategist? World War II made it clear that the Grey Pope was not merely a myth. He was a real and powerful force, a presence that shaped the events of one of the darkest periods in history, ensuring that the Church survived even when everything around it seemed to be falling apart. The Society of Jesus, known as the Jesuits, is one of the most influential orders of the Catholic Church, with a history of dedication to education, missions, and, above all, strategy. Since its founding in 1540 by Ignatius of Loyola, the Jesuits have expanded their global presence, infiltrating courts, royal houses, and universities. At the center of this complex network was the Superior General, called the Black Pope, not only for the color of his cassock, but also for the magnitude of his power and reach. The relationship between the Gray Pope and the Black Pope has always been marked by a mix of collaboration and tension. Documents found in the Vatican secret archives suggest that, at many critical moments, the two worked together to strengthen the Church's position. While the Gray Pope operated in the shadows, making strategic decisions within the Vatican, the Black Pope used the global resources of the Society of Jesus to execute those decisions in the field. During the Counter-Reformation, this partnership was vital in combating the spread of Protestantism. While the Gray Pope engineered political alliances, the Black Pope mobilized missionaries and educators to reclaim lost territories. A notable example was the Jesuits' role in regions such as Bohemia and Poland, where they converted thousands of Protestants back to Catholicism. However, this collaboration began to show cracks in the 17th century. The growing power of the Jesuits, fueled by their financial independence and global reach, concerned the Gray Pope. He feared the society could become a threat to the centralized authority of the Vatican. This led to measures such as requiring direct reports from the Jesuits to the Gray Pope, bypassing the Black Pope in certain instances. A symbolic event of this tension was the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, a devastating conflict intertwining religion and politics. During the war, the Jesuits acted as diplomats and advisors in various European courts, often under orders from the Gray Pope. However, their increasing autonomy led to internal friction, with reports that the Gray Pope at times overruled certain missions of the society. The peak of this rivalry came in 1773, when Pope Clement XIV, under pressure from European monarchs, decreed the suppression of the Society of Jesus. Although officially attributed to the influence of kings such as Charles III of Spain, theory suggests that the Gray Pope supported this decision to neutralize an internal threat. Even after the order's restoration in 1814, the relationship between the Gray Pope and the Black Pope was never the same. Nonetheless, the Jesuits continued to be crucial tools in the Gray Pope's hands. During the Inquisition, many high-profile cases were overseen by members of the society, who acted as investigators and judges. This collaboration ensured that the Church eliminated heresies while consolidating its authority in unstable regions. Another example was the Jesuits' role during World War II. Under the indirect supervision of the Gray Pope, they played a vital part in Vatican intelligence operations, providing valuable information to both the Allies and resistance groups in occupied territories. This relationship, while functional, was always marked by power struggles. While the Black Pope sought to expand the spiritual influence of the Church, the Gray Pope often prioritized political and institutional preservation. This difference in priorities caused friction, but also demonstrated how their interaction was essential to the Church's balance. An intriguing theory about the Black Pope's role in the Vatican suggests that he might have served as a bridge between the Gray Pope's interests and the Church's external agents. Documents from the 19th century mention secret meetings between Jesuit leaders and European diplomats, reportedly organized to coordinate efforts benefiting both the Vatican and the Society of Jesus. Additionally, there is evidence that the Black Pope was consulted on matters involving the control of the secret archives. During the temporary suppression of the Jesuits, records indicate that some members loyal to the Black Pope were tasked with safeguarding sensitive documents related to the order. This reinforces the idea that, even in times of tension, the alliance between the two popes was necessary to protect the Church's most valuable secrets. Despite their rivalries, the Gray Pope and the Black Pope represented two faces of the same system. One acted as the invisible strategist, shaping Vatican politics and internal narratives. The other was the global executor, leveraging the Jesuits' vast network to influence events and further the Church's interests on a worldwide scale. Today, the Jesuits continue to play an important role in Church diplomacy and administration, but the centralized power of the Black Pope has diminished compared to its peak. Nevertheless, the shadow of his influence persists, fueling the idea that the true power in the Vatican is not only in plain sight but also deeply rooted in its hidden layers. Throughout the centuries, the Vatican has maintained an aura of mystery, but few enigmas are as intriguing as the true identity of the Gray Pope. He does not appear in lists of popes or ecclesiastical hierarchies, nor does he hold an official title. Yet, accounts and records suggest his existence is undeniable, especially when examining historical events where crucial decisions were made away from public view. One of the most widespread theories is that the Grey Pope is not a fixed individual, but a symbolic mantle passed among Vatican strategists. Since the 16th century, figures such as the Voice of the Shadow, mentioned during the Council of Trent, and cardinals described as invisible protectors seem to have played similar roles, shaping policies and manipulating events behind the scenes. This hypothesis finds support in encrypted documents from the 18th century, which reference an inner circle of cardinals with the authority to act independently of the White Pope. These men, according to descriptions, did not seek public visibility but exerted decisive influence over the Church's most sensitive decisions. Another intriguing point is the possible connection between the Grey Pope and the powerful Italian families of Orsini and Colonna. These dynasties, deeply rooted in Vatican history, have long been associated with power and political manipulation. Some researchers believe that the Grey Pope may have been a representative of these families, ensuring their interests remained aligned with those of the Church. During World War II, even clearer evidence of his existence emerged. Unconfirmed reports describe a strategist who allegedly organized clandestine operations to rescue Jews and protect sacred relics. This man, never identified, is believed to have been responsible for secret negotiations that ensured the Vatican's neutrality amid the chaos of war. Another fascinating theory suggests that the Grey Pope is the guardian of the Vatican's secret archives. With access to documents spanning more than 1,000 years of history, he would have the ability to manipulate the Church's official narrative, deciding what should be revealed and what should remain hidden. Apocryphal Gospels, papal correspondence, and records of heresies would be among the tools he uses to maintain order and faith stability. Even more controversial is the idea that the Grey Pope represents a form of collective entity. In this case, he would not be an individual but a network of influences and strategies operating as a unified force. This theory explains why different historical periods feature similar figures, with nearly identical profiles, taking control during critical moments. Speculation about his identity intensified after Pope Benedict XVI's resignation in 2013. Known for his deep study of the secret archives, Benedict is believed to have uncovered compromising information that could have shaken Catholic faith. Many believe the Grey Pope played a central role in his resignation, ensuring he remained within the Vatican under direct supervision. Despite this, his presence is not universally viewed as purely sinister. Many believe the Grey Pope is essential for the Church's survival, acting as an invisible protector making difficult decisions to preserve its integrity. This duality, sometimes a defender of faith, sometimes a pragmatic manipulator, is what makes his figure so captivating. There are also those who suggest that the Grey Pope, in modern times, is involved in contemporary issues such as cybersecurity and information control. With technological advancements, he may have adapted his strategies to protect the Church from digital threats, ensuring millennia-old secrets are not exposed in the information age. Ultimately, the mystery of his identity perpetuates his legend. Is he an individual, a lineage, or merely a concept? The Vatican has never confirmed his existence, but it has also never denied the rumors. This ambiguity feeds the notion that the true power within the Church is far from the public eye, hidden in the shadows. At its core, the Grey Pope is more than a person or a title. He is the manifestation of invisible power, operating to balance faith and politics, light and darkness, ensuring that the Church remains a global force even in a constantly changing world. The Grey Pope, whether a title, a lineage, or a network of influences, represents the most strategic and enigmatic side of the Catholic Church. He is the embodiment of a power that moves in the shadows, making decisions that have silently but profoundly shaped history. Through hidden documents, secret alliances, and pragmatic actions, this figure has ensured the Vatican's survival through crises that could have dismantled its structure. Whether myth or reality, the legacy of the Grey Pope is impossible to ignore. He is the invisible guardian of secrets, the strategist who balances morality and pragmatism in the name of an institution that transcends time. If you are interested in exploring more about spirituality, I have specially selected some videos for you, filled with profound knowledge and fascinating discoveries that you will love. Just click on one of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery and spiritual learning. Your commitment to knowledge is the first step to transforming your reality.